Well, it's a very warm welcome to RPTV. No, I'm not joking. Under the studio lights, possibly the warmest place to be at the moment. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Graham Rodway, Nick Watts. It's champion hurdle time for our Ante-post previews. I think you can tell I'm excited. Gentlemen to my right are too. It's great to see you, gentlemen. Cheers to the lift on the snowplough, G-Rod. Now, look, this has the potential to be an absolute classic. Potentially 4 previous champion hurdle winners could line up and go to post here on March the 12th. Now, in the interest of keeping this under about 8 hours and 38 minutes, not leaving the production team with migraines at the end of this, we'll try not to be too exhaustive on each horse, as tempting as it may be. Nick, I'll go to you first. Hurricane Fly, winner in 2 years ago, 3rd last year. Can he be the first horse to regain the champion hurdle since Comedy of Errors in 1975?
No, I think he's going to find it tricky myself. He's got a fantastic record, you can't argue with that, 13 Grade 1s. I mean, it's a hell of a performance by him. But sometimes in Ireland, I'd say it's easier to build up sequences like this than it is over here. You look at the last 3 races he's won, they've been in very, very small fields. I think 4, 3 and 5. Struggled to beat Zaidpour at Punchestown at the festival there last year. I'm not sure he would have beaten Go Native if Go Native stood up at the last at Punchestown, first time out this season. And then last time out, I thought the race was quite dull, to be honest with you. I know it was a Grade 1, but I mean, he had an 11-year-old Captain CB in opposition. He had Unaccompanied, who he's beaten before, isn't up to the job.
It was a great winning name.
You'd have been disappointed if he didn't win as he did. So, yeah, I mean, it showed that he's still in good form. Whether that's good enough to win at Cheltenham, because I think this is a really open race. I think there's loads of strength in depth. I think there's a lot of big challenges out there, and I think Hurricane Fly is going to find it really hard to reclaim his crown.
Hurricane Fly over and clear, unaccompanied, and Captain CB ahead of Thousand Stars, and on the run up towards the finish, it's Hurricane Fly who's going to win this in great style. Lands the odds for Willie Mullins and Ruby Walsh. Hurricane Fly wins the Istabraq Festival hurdle, unaccompanied Thousand Stars.
And Graham, you've made your views on Twitter quite clear, so much so they managed to get on to the races with Mike Cattermole a couple of days ago. Hurricane Fly has been a big talking point. A lot of people are arguing the fact he went off odds on to win a champion hurdle last year. Surely there's value at 7-2.
I don't think so. I don't think he's shown the same sparkle since he won that champion hurdle a couple of seasons ago. He was a bit disappointing in last year's race, and then he went on and was disappointing really, although he beat Zaidpour next time. Watts is probably right that Go Native might have beaten him first time out if he'd stood up, which would again been another disappointment.
As they come down now towards the final flight, Hurricane Fly from Go Native on the near side, and Go Native is down at the last, went travelling well and going to give a good account of himself, but now Hurricane Fly is left to come home clear, and Hurricane Fly wins readily from his solitary opponent now, Captain CB in second.
He has really, really good days and not so good days, and I think he thrives on racing. I think last season, he came in there after just one prep run. And I just wonder whether he was absolutely at his very, very best.
Well, Mullins questioned that. He feels he's got him back to where he used to be 2 years ago.
He's had 2 runs already this season, won them both, and he's going to have another one, which he'll probably win in the Irish Champion Hurdle. And then he will have had a few runs going in. And maybe we will see the absolute top Hurricane Fly turn up on the day. And if he is in top form on the day, and there is cut in the ground, I think he must have cut in the ground. I don't think he can win a champion hurdle on good ground. Then he could run well, but not at 7-2. It's too short.
So Nick's against him. You're sitting on the fence, and that means sitting on the fence equals don't back him at 7-2.
Not at 7-2,
which is fair enough. And it's almost disrespectful to overlook last year's winner, Rock on Ruby. You two, then, gentlemen, very quickly, do you think he poses better value at 8-1 as opposed to Hurricane Fly at 7-2, Nick?
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, he beat Hurricane Fly convincingly last season by 5+ lengths, I think it was.
General consensus is that was a better ride rather than perhaps a better horse. There's excuses are being made.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think it'd be dangerous to think that, though. I thought he won very convincingly. Hurricane Fly was beaten quite a long way out for me and did well to get as close as he did. I don't really see any reason why Rock on Ruby shouldn't beat Hurricane Fly again. I don't think he would have regressed in the last 12 months. It all probably revolves around the fact that he's got H. Fry next to his name and Hurricane Fly's got W. Mullins next to his name. That's the discrepancy.
And Graham, your view on Rock on Ruby?
I don't fancy him. I thought it was quite a poor race that he won last season. I'm sure Hurricane Fly was below his best. Overturn finished second. Overturn had been thrashed by Grand Duet in the International on his previous outing. Rock and Ruby's then come out and finished third in the International this year. Okay, maybe he didn't like the ground, maybe he wasn't fit, but as far as I'm concerned, you could have made those excuses certainly about Grandue, who was turning up after a long absence and wouldn't have liked the really testing ground, and Grandue beat him easily and Zarkandar beat them both. So I can't really see the Rock on Ruby angle.
Okay then. Right, well, Nicky Henderson obviously has a very strong hand here. I mean, fantastic battalion of stars he has. Aforementioned Grandue. Darlan, of course, your Christmas hurdle winner. Potentially Oscar Whiskey, even Old Binocular. Look, we haven't got time to go through everyone piece by piece, but Graham, I'll come to you first. Out of the Henderson brigade, if I had to nail your colours to one mast, which of his would you bet to come up on top?
I like them both. I like Darlan and Grandue. They're the two that I like. I like them both quite a lot. I've been a big fan of Darlan from the start of last season. I put him up quite early last season as a bet for the champion hurdle. The one doubt I've got about Darlan now is he's short enough. He's 7-2, 4-1, and his jumping is still a bit of a concern. He fell last year in the Betfair hurdle when he was travelling strongly. He didn't jump particularly well in the Supreme, which is possibly one of the reasons why he got beat by Cinders and Ashes. And I thought he showed a tendency to hit the odd hurdle in the Christmas hurdle, even though he won it.
Do you think that Christmas hurdle form could have been overvalued? In fact, it was run 8 seconds slower than River Meg early on in the contest. To make him a 4-1 shot to win a champion hurdle on the back of that.
A lot's being made of that, but I think that it's being overplayed a little bit because I think Darlan was a very, very easy winner. I thought Darlan was by far the best horse in the race. No matter how that race had been run, I'm convinced Darlan would have won it.
Right. So Darlan for you is the pick of the Henderson bunch.
But for me, Grandue is the pick. I still prefer Grandue because I'm not sure about Darlan's jumping, holding up off a strong gallop in champion hurdle, whereas Grandue is a really fluent jumper, which is number one tick on my list for a champion hurdle winner. You have to jump well, and Grandue does. And I was very impressed with the way he travelled first time out and with what he found off the bridle, because he has not always looked the toughest in a battle, Grandue. He's sometimes looked like when the taps get turned on, he maybe curls up a little bit under pressure, and where he travelled best coming into the straight in the Triumph Hurdle a couple of years ago and didn't appear to get home up the hill. Well, however, he does seem to have strengthened up.
He went up the hill in the International.
And he came up the hill to win the International, beating Overturn 4.5 lengths, and then Overturn went on to win the Champion Hurdle. That was 2 years ago. And then last time this year in the International Hurdle, again, he travelled really, really strongly. But what impressed me most with Grandue was what he actually found under pressure. I thought once he came under pressure, you would see him go backwards coming to the last. He was behind Rock on Ruby and the winner Zarkandar, and I thought you would see Grandue go backwards in the manner that Rock on Ruby did, and you would see Rock on Ruby and Zarkandar fight at the finish. But that's not what happened. Grandue really, really did find quite a lot off the bridle, and I was very surprised by that. But it suggests to me that Grandue strengthened up an awful lot again after having a long absence. The absence might have even done him a bit of a favour. And he comes out at the weights in that International as the best horse at the weights. He was beaten 2 lengths by Zarkandar. Zarkandar was getting £4 and was also given, I thought, the best ride in the race. My problem with Zarkandar is last year in the Champion Hurdle, he got completely outpaced off a fast pace. And I think that'll happen again this season, whereas Grandue will travel really well into the race. And if Grandue gets up the straight ahead of Zarkandar, I think Grandue will hold him.
Okay, so a cogent case there for Grandue. We should mention Courto Star actually tweeted saying Zarkandar's the each way still at a festival, so boo to you there, Graham. Nick, you've got vested interest in Grandue in many respects from tipping him from your Ante-post portfolio. He hasn't really done a lot wrong, and you must be going here pretty confident.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I won't reiterate all what G-Rod's just said, because I agree with the vast majority of it. I don't really know where he gets this weak finisher tag from, though, because, I mean, if you look back to his International, when he beat Overturn then, had to come off the bridle to do so and find something. Overturn's generally regarded as one of the toughest horses in training, never shirks a battle at all. So to get past Overturn and then put 4 lengths on him, I don't think he's a weak finisher. I think they've just discovered how to ride this horse, because in the Triumph Hurdle a couple of seasons ago, he went to the front far too soon. Not Barry Gerricks's fault. He was travelling so well that it was difficult for Barry to do anything else. He took out rounding the home turn. As you know, in the Triumph Hurdle, there's a massive gap between turning in and when he gets that final hurdle. When he got to it, he'd done his running, and he was just running on empty up the hill. Never thought he had a problem with the hill whatsoever. He proved that in the International, proved it again this season. I think the International this year was the key race to this, the key trial for this race so far. I think Zarkandar had to win that race. I know there would be excuses if he didn't win it, but he was the one that's coming into the race with a run under his belt. The other two weren't. They were coming off long absences. He probably wouldn't have minded the ground. The other two would have been much more efficient and effective on better ground.
Yeah.
And he was getting weight. So if Zarkandar had not won that race, I think it would have really put a massive dent in his champion hurdle chances. As it was, he won, but he was very workmanlike. I think he's a grinder rather than a horse who is genuinely, he's a completely different horse to Grandway, put it that way. Grandway will travel, Zarkandar will grind it out. But it's a point that several people made after the International is the fact that the champion hurdle's running on a different course, a quicker course than the International. That probably wouldn't suit Zarkandar, and the way he ran in it last season. I'm very happy with Grandway. He's going to run this weekend. We'll know more about him then, but that prep run at Cheltenham in December I thought was fantastic. He showed everything that I wanted to see from him.
Keep him covered up off a strong pace, and that should see his turn of foot to the best of it.
And it'll make for a fantastic champion hurdle, because everyone remembers a few years ago the Carberry ride that he gave to Archibald. Barry Geraghty's going to have to do something pretty similar with Grandway, because he won't want to hit the front before the last. So if he's cruising coming to the last, he's got a couple of horses in front of him, and they're like horses like Zarkandar who will keep going. It's going to be fascinating to see if he can get past them. I think he can.
He really is a cracking race in store, and so we're pretty much positive vibes for Grand Douay, but I'm going to now for a tip then, Graham, and a bit of Ante-post value, something that could potentially shorten. Where are we going to go?
Yeah, it's another one of these races where there's not a hell of a lot of value at the top of the market. And if you ask me what was going to win the race, I'd be pretty confident Grand Douay or Darlan. But from a value perspective, I think that if you look into nick a few points, there might be it might be worth backing Countrywide Flame, who was beaten by Darlan in the Christmas hurdle last time, but is quite in the manner of Zarkandar really, is quite a grinder. Rather than a speed horse, and would not have been suited by the way that race was run. Don't get me wrong, I still don't think that Countrywide Flame could have beaten Darlan, even if the race had been run more to suit. But Kempton would not have been the ideal track for Countrywide Flame.
Test of speed as opposed to stamina.
He's a grinder, he's a stayer. He needs a real testing finish.
He showed that in the Triumph Hurdle.
An undulating track. And he was an impressive winner of the Triumph Hurdle at Cheltenham last season. Then, reverting to type, he was turned over at Aintree on a speed track. By Grimetti, who is quite a speed horse. And he's run a couple of decent races on the flat. Come out first time out. Cinders and Ashes was long odds on to beat him on heavy ground. But he was a very, very impressive winner. Beat him 12 lengths. I don't see any reason why Cinders and Ashes should reverse that form. Now, a lot of people are going to say better ground. But Cinders and Ashes has got 2 wins on heavy ground on his CV. I mean, he might well be a better horse on better ground, but
did win the Supreme Novice Hurdle on good ground.
He did, but there's no concrete evidence that he's going to be a 12-length better horse or whatever, or a much far better horse on better ground. And who knows? As we've made this point in the previous forums, I'm not 100% sure it's even going to be a good ground festival. At first look, I thought, well, Cinders and Ashes is the value. But then on second look, I can't see how Cinders and Ashes beats Countrywide Flame, and Countrywide Flame is a bigger price. So I think the value is with Countrywide Flame.
It is the Triumph Hurdle winner, Countrywide Flame, that is over, and is over 2 or 3 lengths clear. Cinders and Ashes being asked some serious questions, but he doesn't have the answers. It is the Triumph Hurdle winner, Countrywide Flame, making a tremendous statement here in the StanJames.com fighting 5th, and is a sensationally impressive winner. In second spot, Cinders and Ashes just couldn't pick up the leader.
Before we wrap it up, Nick, I'll just throw to my long shot. Well, I backed him last July, and now price-wise has given me a blessed omen here of Cotton Mill, around the 33 to 1 mark, maybe a little bit shorter now. He was going as well as Simon Seek in many quarters, even Dennis O'Regan says in the Neptune last year, a race which traditionally farms good horses in the Champion Hurdle, like so Hardy Eustace and Isterbrak et al. Do you think I'm barking up the wrong tree here, Nick? He will need good ground. If he does get it, can you see him running a big race?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously risky. He's got a lot to do on the figures. I think he's rated in 140s at the moment.
145, yeah.
Yeah, so...
He'll go to the Betfair Hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, you'd say he'd have a stiff task. But, I mean, no, it's not a completely ridiculous shot at all. I mean, John Ferguson, he's proved himself to be a really good trainer. I mean, he gets good ammunition, we should say that. But he certainly knows what to do with it and where to put these horses. Cotton Mill, like you said, was travelling every bit as well as Simon Zig. It'd been lovely to see what would have happened, but obviously we didn't get to. We haven't seen him since, but there's been nothing wrong with the horse apparently, according to Ferguson. It's just been a case of waiting for some good ground, and he's prepared to be patient. And I think that shows, for one, that he thinks he's a really good horse, because he's not willing to risk him on ground that won't suit him. So he's happy to wait. Must think there's a good pot in him. And the Betfair Hurdle is going to be very, very informative. If he runs a good race there, then I think you can start to dream, definitely.
Okay, fantastic stuff, man. It's kept my hopes going nonetheless. Anyway, right, well, so let's just wrap up with the gentlemen. Nick, you're in the Grand Douai camp.
Yeah, I'm in the Grand Douai camp. If Hurricane Fly wins, I'll shave my sideburns off after the race. Right,
okay, no more Bradley Wiggins impersonations after that one. And Graham, I presume your Countrywide Flame with Grand Douai is the biggest danger.
Yeah, I'm starting to hope that Hurricane Fly wins. Bonus, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think Grand Douai will win it. I agree with Watsy. I think Grand Douai will win it, but the value is Countrywide Flame at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm nailing my long shot colours to Cotton Mill. So thanks for watching. It's been absolutely terrific to be joined by gentlemen here, and we'll see you all again next week.